I'd like to give a shout out to Michelle Bunting for his wonderful comment that says, "Give this man an Oscar." Hello there, I'm the KFC, and today I am doing a video for Star Wars Defined, which is a YouTube collaboration where we take a scene, journey, concept, or something that defines Star Wars. If you wish to join us so we can rule the galaxy, then make a Star Wars Defined video and then email it to Roundtable, who will put you in the official Star Wars Defined playlist. The email will be in the description below. So on to the video. Now, I had trouble thinking what defined Star Wars. How do you define a series that's been around for 4 decades and has been in all sorts of media? So, first, I decided to pick a film, and there were some good candidates that defined Star Wars. I was thinking of choosing The Last Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, and Revenge of the Sith. And while they did make great contributions to Star Wars, they weren't the best choices because the best way to define Star Wars is by looking at its roots. So A New Hope was the best film to find one scene that defined Star Wars. Now, I had a lot of ideas like the opening space battle or the trench run, but there was one scene in mind that I had the strongest connection to, which is the iconic binary sunset. Now, I didn't want to make a video on it because Roundtable already did, and I wanted to make my video more unique. So I went on to search for a scene to replace my first choice. And the third act of The Last Jedi was so close to being my choice, but I didn't go with it, because while I loved the scene and believed it to be one of the most impactful scenes in Star Wars, part of the reason on why it's impactful is because of the binary sunset. So finally, I went with my heart and decided to make a video on the scene that had the heart and core of Star Wars. The binary sunset is very iconic. We all know the scene where Luke walks out of his house to stand and just look at the suns for a brief moment and then go back inside. This scene is significant because it establishes a connection to the audience while representing so much in so little time. However, we need to know the context. Luke lives with his aunt and uncle after his parents supposedly died. Ever since then, he worked as a farmer with his family, along with some droids. While Luke does love his family, he doesn't want to be a farmer forever. He wanted to leave the planet and follow his own dreams, just like many of his friends had done. However, he feels trapped in his duties because his uncle is keeping him on Tatooine and preventing him from exploring his own path. This can all be seen in this scene. When Luke pleads to his uncle to finally let him free by telling him they have enough droids so they don't need him for the harvest, but Owen says they still need him for one more season. Luke would mention that Owen said the same thing when 2 of his friends left. When his aunt asked where he was going, he would say,
"Looks like I'm going nowhere."
Then, in the scene afterwards, he would look at the suns. We now know that he feels chained to Tatooine, and he feels like he can't do what he wants to do. So when he looks at the suns, you can understand what he is feeling. One thing he is feeling is hope. Now, hope is an important aspect of the series because all of the films have centered on it as either a significant theme or as a character motivation. This is because hope is very significant in this film. This film would later be renamed Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. Here are some major examples of hope within this film. The rebels believe they have a chance to destroy the Death Star after they were able to retrieve the Death Star plans, which could reveal its weakness. They hoped to find Obi-Wan Kenobi and convince him to aid their cause, even though there was a big possibility that they might not be able to find him, or he is dead. When things were dire for the rebellion, Leia gave the plans and a message to R2-D2, hoping that the droid can find Obi-Wan Kenobi and make their way back to the rebellion to deliver the plans. Now this is a big gamble because R2 could have been lost, captured, or kidnapped. Another big gamble was the rebellion thinking that they could defeat the Empire, even though the Empire had a massive advantage because they were more well-equipped and they had more resources. So why would the members of the rebellion join the cause when they faced such big odds? It's because they had hope that they could defeat an oppressive and tyrannical government and deliver the necessary changes that could benefit the galaxy. Now Luke hopes to finally be free from Tatooine. However, he feels trapped because he feels like he has to help his relatives out, and he thinks that his uncle will try to keep him on Tatooine for as long as he can. This leads me into another important aspect of Star Wars: change. We've seen lots of instances where change and attempts to avoid change have been very consequential. Throughout the prequels, Anakin is very resistant towards change. When Anakin has to leave his mother, he says,
I don't want things to change.
his mother would reply by saying,
But you can't stop the change, any more than you can stop the suns from setting.
However, he wouldn't take those words to heart, as he would continually fail to put the past behind him, and he would continually attempt to suppress change, which would drive him to the dark side. He wasn't the only one to suppress change either. The Jedi had a system where their rules forced all of the Jedi to basically be emotionless by suppressing emotion and banning attachment. So they're basically trying to keep everybody the same. The Council didn't want Anakin to join the Order because he was the oldest child to be inducted in the Order. So they thought this milestone would mean he would be different, so he might not be the proper Jedi that they want him to be. The Council's attempts to keeping their system the same would lead to the Order's destruction. Now, the reason Uncle Owen is keeping Luke on the farm is because he doesn't want Luke to leave. He knows he can't keep him on the farm forever, but he does try to protect him as long as he can. This is because he doesn't want Luke to become his father. All that Owen knows about Anakin was that he left to join the Jedi and fought in the Clone Wars, but he is now dead, and he probably believes he was killed during the Clone Wars. So he doesn't want that to happen to Luke as well. He fears that as soon as Luke leaves, he will join Ben Kenobi to become a Jedi, he will join the rebellion in the Galactic Civil War, and get himself killed. Uncle Owen might have had a thought that by keeping Luke on the farm for as long as he did, Luke might become a farmer instead and have a peaceful life. But this idea is in vain when Aunt Beru says,
Luke's just not a farmer, Owen. He has too much of his father in him.
Another important aspect of Star Wars that is related to the scene is home. Throughout the sequel trilogy, Rey struggles to find her place. She is desperate for family because of her parents abandoning her when she was young. She would try to move on, but she couldn't stop thinking about him, causing her to suffer and feel lots of pain. She didn't feel that she had a place in the conflict, and she doesn't find herself worthy to be a Jedi. To make matters worse, when it would be revealed that she is related to the most evil person in the galaxy, Emperor Palpatine, who plans to use her to control the galaxy, this causes her to rethink where she truly belongs. However, one important thing that she would learn later on is that while she is related to him, that doesn't make him her family. The reason she took the Skywalker name was because they were there for her when she needed them. They cared for her, mentored her, and loved her. She felt that her place was with the Skywalkers. She saw them as her family, and another word for family is home. Now, while Luke did love his aunt and uncle, he didn't feel like he belonged on the farm or in Tatooine. He looked to the suns and stars because he wanted to leave the planet and have a big adventure instead of being stuck in the middle of nowhere. He wanted to have his own path, like maybe doing some piloting, which was shown as an interest that he was passionate about throughout the film. I would also like to mention that the binary sunset is where I begin to have a connection to Luke Skywalker. Up until this point, all that we've seen Luke do was whine and complain about how things aren't going his way. But it's this scene where all of that changes. In this scene, I begin to empathize with Luke because his reaction is very similar to how we would all react if we were in his shoes. He wants to make his own path and do what he wants to do, but he knows he can't have that, so he resigns to his current circumstances. That's what makes him so relatable, because we've all been in his shoes where we wanted to leave the house so we can create our own paths and make our own choices, but we couldn't because we still had to live with our families, so we just had to deal with that fact. This scene shows the magic of Star Wars. It doesn't mainly come from the lightsaber fights, stunning effects, or the cool worlds, but it comes from the characters, and it's shown right here. Now, there are some other stuff that I like about this scene. We have to give credit to Mark Hamill for giving a solid performance. This scene wouldn't have been impactful if his acting wasn't good in this scene. I love how this scene was able to show George Lucas's world being similar to our world while being unique in its own way. Luke lives on a desert planet that has 2 suns. It feels similar to our world while being out of this world at the same time, which does make me believe that there could be a planet out there called Tatooine in our universe. While many aspects that I mentioned made key contributions to the scene, the most important part of this scene was the score, which was composed beautifully by John Williams. Nothing that I will say about the score will give it justice that it deserves. Trust me when I say that it is perfect for the scene. While the imagery made the scene look like a painting, it was the score that made this scene iconic. Because of how iconic it has been referenced in the other Star Wars films, like Revenge of the Sith, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. The images and music are forever cemented in our minds, and it is now seen as one of the best scenes in Star Wars. And I would argue it's the best scene of Star Wars. It was able to set a precedent for future protagonists in the saga who feel trapped in their own struggles, which is highlighted when we first see them on a desert planet. This scene served as a beginning for the journey of Luke Skywalker, and the binary sunset would also serve as the end of his journey as he looked back to reflect on the time he was just a farmer, and despite everything that he went through, he knew that at least he was able to get the adventure that he wished for. This scene was able to show that the series began with key themes, an intriguing world, and characters that we loved. That's my Star Wars Defined. Anyway guys, that is my Star Wars Defined video. I've been working on this video for a few months now, so sorry that it took a little long to, finally release it. But hey, my script's done, finished editing, it's now out, so you just saw the video, and thank you for watching it. In preparation for this video, I actually watched all of the Star Wars Defined videos, so if you watched this one, I would suggest to go watch the other ones if you haven't seen them yet, because they are pretty good, and it has and offers a lot of variety of opinions and perspectives and points of view. So that's another awesome part of this series. Like, a bunch of people who just love Star Wars are just giving their reasons what defines Star Wars for them. And I'm happy to be part of it because I love Star Wars. Like, as I said in my, Why I Love Star Wars video, it has impacted me, and I loved it for 10 years now, which is awesome. So that's great. I'm glad to show my love for Star Wars again, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. So, yeah. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe if you liked this video and if you like my channel, and stay tuned because I have an upcoming review, although unfortunately it's not Star Wars, but hey, if if you're curious, then, stick around and you'll find out. But anyway, thank you for watching this video, and may the Force be with you.